Robert Patillo is an attorney and an activist, and he joins us tonight. Robert, thank you for coming on. So
Thanks, Tucker.
Progressive activists have a right to intimidate and scream at people they disagree with politically in public places, in restaurants, for example, or outside their homes, what are the boundaries of that? I mean, do you have a right to show up at someone's kid's soccer game and scream at the parents? Do you have a right to show up at the person's church, at their parents' funeral? I mean, what are the boundaries now in this new activism on the left?
Well, Tucker, one thing that I think is important, you started off the segment by talking about the First Amendment rights and freedom of speech. What Maxine Waters said to her supporters was to exercise their freedom of speech. If you see somebody who is in power, confront them, speak to them about the issues. We're in a swamp territory in D.C. right now where individuals only listen to lobbyists and to special interest groups. If the only time you get to speak to elected officials is when they're in public, then by all means, don't commit violence, don't commit anything that will harm the individual, but let them know how you feel. People have the right to exercise their First Amendment rights.
I'm actually, it's a little stunning for me to take a lecture about the First Amendment from anyone on the left who've been working overtime for the past couple of years to curtail our First Amendment rights, who invented this fake category of hate speech, etc. But leaving that aside, this is not a debate about anyone's right to speak. It's a debate about whether it's appropriate to scream at people in public and to force them out of, for example, restaurants. This is not an attempt to win them over or to show them another side of the issue. It's an effort to intimidate them. You can't read it any other way. You're not telling me they're trying to inform Sarah Huckabee Sanders. They were punishing her.
Look, Tucker, the entire point is that because these members of the administration don't talk to the American people, they don't have regular press briefings, they don't go out and have town hall meetings, this is the only time the individuals have the opportunity to speak with them.
What do you mean? Trump just preempted our show yesterday. Wait, hold on. Come on.
There's a difference between a
yesterday,
speech,
the president,
and a town hall.
But you said they don't give press briefing. Look, we hear a lot from the administration. We hear a lot from its opponents. I welcome that almost uniquely on television. I like debates. I'm glad that you are here. We disagree. I think we should have a conversation. You do not have the right to scream at me in front of my children in a restaurant, surround my house on the weekend when my kids are home, come to my church, go to their soccer games, go to my parents' funerals. Do you see the difference between having a debate over the issues and intimidating people in the public space?
Well, let's understand that the entirety of this issue started with a lack of messaging on the part of the administration, by not explaining what the detention policy is, by not explaining what exactly is happening to these children. If the president and the administration want to have a conversation about this, do like other administrations have done. Go do town halls around the country, speak to voters, let the people express their feelings to the administration. Understand what public opinion is. Don't simply hide behind the walls of power. And nobody's going to people's soccer games or funerals or going
it's
to
not
their
my
homes.
job.
They're saying confront these people in public.
Well, those are public spaces, and I guess the point I'm making is once you start describing people you disagree with politically as Nazis, as the worst category of almost non-human beings, you are almost by definition encouraging, first of all, you're closing out any possibility of agreement or compromise, and you're basically saying, hurt them. I mean, what do you do to, honestly, I'm being sincere with you, what do you do to a Nazi? If you really thought Nazis were taking over the country, you know what I would do? I would consider force. I don't want to be governed by Nazis. So that's why we don't talk that way, because it, by its definition, encourages violence, right?
But no, Tucker, let's understand that during the Obama administration, he was accused of being everything from a Muslim sleeper cell to not an American citizen. This is what happens. Joe Walsh yelled out, "You lie," during a presidential address. The discourse that we have in this nation has become caustic. Somebody has to fix the issue. But right now, when you have an administration that refuses to speak to the American people, it's difficult to get in there.
Okay, again, it's not my job to flack for the White House. But holy smokes, he just did an hour-long live event yesterday. He's doing an hour-long live event tomorrow. I mean, they speak a lot. That's not really the issue. The issue is whether you have a right to take political differences and turn them into some kind of mob retaliation against the people you disagree with. Can we just agree on this? Maybe the left should stop calling people Nazis. Maybe that's too far. Maybe that is setting the table for something awful. Can we agree on that? Or is it okay to liken people to Adolf Hitler? I mean, for real.
Look, Tucker, we can agree on that, but can also the right not support the Charlottesville actual Nazis who are walking around with swastikas? That's what foment says. You have to condemn those Nazis.
I mean, I've never met anybody who would support it. Okay, look, I've never met anybody.
I agree with conversations.
Okay, but it's one thing to say of someone who is espousing, I guess, Nazi views, you're a Nazi. But to say about someone who disagrees with you on immigration policy, you're a Nazi, what you're saying is, I don't need to win you over, debate you. What I need to do is destroy you. And that's what the left is saying, isn't it?
I think what happens is when you do not condemn, we do not condemn people like David Duke, we do not condemn the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville, then you get your issues conflated with them. Well, as I said, there's a difference between doing an hour-long speech to people and having a town hall where you speak with people and get their input, get their side of the conversation, and present public policy that helps all people.
Yeah, okay. Robert, thank you.
Did the Red Hen restaurant violate the rights of White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders when it kicked her out? And did Congresswoman Maxine Waters illegally incite leftists to commit violence? Here to debate both of these issues, attorney and former Georgia State Rep LaDawn Jones and political analyst and Washington attorney Gail Trotter. Okay, Gail, you have the floor. What possible cause of action could Sanders have against this restaurant?
Yes, the restaurant violated Sanders' rights because they discriminated against her in service under the Virginia Human Rights Act, which does not allow places of public accommodation to deny service to people based on their personal beliefs.
That would include political beliefs.
It doesn't say specifically, but the statute specifically says that it should be interpreted broadly, and other states, including D.C., right where we are, say that political beliefs, sources of employment, where you live, where you work, cannot be held against you in denying service.
So this is a civil cause of action. What kind of damages? Like treble damages, punitive, compensatory? What do you got?
Oh, yeah. And, you know, if there were leftists trying to put this in force, they would try to put this business out of business, as we've seen in other situations.
The Washington Post, LaDawn, said no cause of action here, even though they didn't. A lot of these civil rights attorneys weren't applauding this action, said Sarah Sanders is out of luck. What's your thought?
I agree. I also don't applaud the action, but I don't think there's a cause of action there. Our legislatures in Virginia or anywhere else have to make it very clear that they do not allow discrimination based on political beliefs. They will have to prove in this cause of action to be successful that this location, the Red Hen, always stop people with these particular personal beliefs or political beliefs rather than just Sarah Sanders herself. And because this was targeted directly at her and for her participation with the Trump organization, I don't think that they could win here.
I disagree. The comments that the restaurant owner made specifically said that they were denying her service based on her personal beliefs. And when you look at those particular statements, they would be entered into evidence as completely exonerating Sarah Sanders and making sure that the restaurant had discriminated against her. And even if you go to the point saying that Virginia statute only allows places not to discriminate based on religion, certainly in immigration, religion has come into this over and over again. People on both sides have been citing Bible statutes, talking about this, and saying that definitely this is a religious issue as well.
LaDawn, do you know? Yeah, go ahead. You can respond to that, and then I'll give you the next point.
You know, I just find it interesting that when we talk about these causes of action, we've seen these cases come through the Supreme Court. We've seen these laws come through several states where there were direct things that our laws have prohibited based on race, religion, sexual orientation, that conservatives have fought very hard to try to say that, well, it's okay for someone to express their personal beliefs for religious reasons. It did not fly in those cases. It will not fly here.
All right. This is Maxine Waters on Saturday versus Maxine Waters tonight or today. Let's watch.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome. I have not called for the harm of anybody. This president has lied again when he's saying that I called for harm to anyone. This Don the Con man will say anything. He is the one that's responsible for promoting violence.
LaDawn, she says push back. Obviously, the import of that is drive them out. She's urging people to surround members of the administration when they're having a private dinner with their children. Doesn't matter. How is that not ultimately inciting people to violence? and she says, no, that's not what I intended. But you're telling people to harass other people. She's a smart woman. She knows what the word harass means, does she not?
I'm sure she does, but let's look at the legal sense of the word. What do we have the right to do as Americans? One of the fundamental rights is to be able to
not
use
incite
our
violence,
freedom of speech.
Not incite violence. You don't have the right to do that.
To incite violence. She did not ask them to incite violence. She asked them to push back on their policies.
She didn't say on their policies. No. She did not. I listened very closely 4 times.
Push them out of a store. She also did not say push them out of a store.
Wherever they go.
She also did not say drive them over with a car.
Are they public accommodations, though? Those are public accommodations. They're according to the statute, they're public places of gathering. So you have free association, Gail. Look, I think it's a tough call on this, but she has free association as a person, Sarah Sanders. She can freely associate with anyone she wants and go anywhere she wants, but this is a private establishment. So does the private establishment have the right to say, we don't want to serve you if you're barefoot, we're not going to serve you if you're a member of the Trump administration?
Well, there's no question when you're talking about what Maxine Waters said, that this is inciting, and the First Amendment does not protect incitement of violence. And she wants mob rule, and she's talking about a specific action against people whose names we know, 23 members of the cabinet, 6 of them are Republican women.
Create a crowd, push back on them, and tell them they're not welcome anywhere. I think if those words were used against any other class of people who happen not to be related to Trump or supporting him, I think the left would have a huge problem. They have a lot of creative liberal lawyers who would say, oh, well, there could be cause of action, maybe a conspiracy to deprive someone of their First Amendment rights. But this is a good arbiter segment. You were both really good. I don't know. Can I have a tie? No, I can't. Okay. I think Gail has it this time. I don't have my gavel. Gail, you have it this time. But no, it's not, of course. I said it was really good, and I want you back. You're both great. Thank you.